All right, y'all. So the hunt for a quarterback for the New York Giants, at least from a veteran standpoint or stopgap standpoint, is still ongoing right now. And we're bringing in Jameis Winston for a visit here tomorrow. Today is Monday, March 17th. We had Joe Flacco come in, and he met with the New York Giants last Thursday. Russell Wilson came in and met with the Giants a day after on Friday. And most fans and everybody around the NFL community is still waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision, because whatever decision Aaron Rodgers ultimately ends up making will definitely lead to the other options of what the New York Giants have at the quarterback position. The trade up to number one seems extremely unlikely right now, especially according to Jordan Raanan, the beat reporter for the New York Giants. He said the Giants' plan to trade up to number one appears to be dead currently. And Ralph Vacciano also said on Twitter today that none of this soap opera will prevent the Giants from drafting a quarterback next month. That's still their intention, I'm told. They would trade up in the draft if they could, but that increasingly seems unlikely. If Ward or Sanders aren't there at pick number 3, it's possible they'll wait until round 2. Last show, we had talked about quarterbacks that are still actively on the market, and guys are just flying off the board right now. We saw Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, both of those guys get deals. Former New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones got a deal. Jacoby Brissett, Marcus Mariota, Mason Rudolph, Joshua Dobbs, Mac Jones, Nick Mullins, Zach Wilson, Kyle Trask, and Gardner Minshew all got deals before we did our last stream that we had done here on YouTube. Since that last show, we've had Taylor Heineke, Cooper Rush, Brandon Allen, Bailey Zappi, and Kyle Allen all go on and sign contracts with teams. So the New York Giants market for a quarterback here is definitely slim pickings. We got just about 15 quarterbacks left as far as a veteran free agent option that the New York Giants are going to be able to choose from. We're looking at guys like Trey Lance, Sam Ehlinger, Easton Stick, Desmond Ridder, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley, Brett Rippon, Jeff Driscoll, Teddy Bridgewater, C.J. Beathard, Josh Johnson, Case Keenum. This is where things get a little bit better. You got Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, former New York Giants backup quarterback Drew Lock, Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. So not a lot of options there for the New York Giants, but today I did kind of want to take a look at the most recent option who will be coming into the New York Giants facility tomorrow to have a visit with the team, which is Jameis Winston. And I think the part of his statistics that has not been readily available to give you a gauge of what Jameis Winston might look like over a season is, what do his statistics look like in his last 17 starts? Now, Jameis Winston is 31 years old. He spent 5 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 70 starts with the Bucs. He had a record of 28-42. 4 years with the New Orleans Saints. He had 10 starts with the Saints. He did have a winning record with the Saints as well, a record of 6-4. And he spent last year with the Cleveland Browns. He had 7 starts with a record of 2-5. Now, in the last 17 games, these are what Jameis Winston's numbers look like. And these stats do span all the way from 2021 to 2024. You got 7 games in 2021 with the New Orleans Saints. That goes from weeks 1 through 8, and there was also a bye between that. You had 3 games in 2022 with the New Orleans Saints as well, from weeks 1 to week 3, until Jameis Winston ultimately ended up hurting his knee. And then you got 7 games with the Cleveland Browns in 2024, which spanned from weeks 8 to weeks 14. Now, the passing yards look really good for Jameis Winston, over 4,000 yards. That's never been a problem for Jameis. He can push the ball down the field with the best of them. 30 passing touchdowns, which is also really good. The New York Giants could use that amount of touchdowns. Getting into the end zone is very important for a team that averaged just 16 points per game last season. But the turnovers, definitely where Jameis Winston, does not shine. 20 interceptions for Jameis Winston in his last 17 games. The rushing yards aren't fantastic at 263 with 2 touchdowns on the ground. The completion percentage is serviceable at 61.2% and a quarterback rating of 86.45 over the last 17 games. Now, the turnovers is definitely a thing. He's lost 6 fumbles in his last 17 games. He's been sacked 52 times. He averages 20 points per game, so that's a bit of an uptick from what we saw from the Giants quarterback room last year. And for those of y'all thinking about Aaron Rodgers, he also averaged 20 points per game with the Jets this past season as well. Jameis in his last 17 games is averaging 238 passing yards per game and a complete record of 8-9, which is not too terrible. Jameis Winston, there's pros, there's cons to bringing in a guy like Jameis Winston. But for me, the biggest con on Jameis Winston's resume is when he's down on the scoreboard, he is going to have a tough time taking care of the football. That has been Jameis's big problem. 17 of his 20 interceptions in his last 17 games have came while he was trailing. he has had just 102 attempts with the lead. So he is the kind of quarterback that, whether you can blame it on him or blame it on the defenses, Jameis Winston is rarely playing with the lead. He has 1 interception while leading, 2 interceptions with the game tied, and Jameis had just 26 attempts in 2024 while his team was leading. Now, that was the Cleveland Browns. They had a very tough time in 2024, but nonetheless, I got to put some of that on Jameis Winston as well. Now, Jameis does bring some great assets to the table. He brings experience, he brings leadership, and although you might not win a lot of games with Jameis Winston, he's going to bring a ton of laughs, and the season should be pretty fun.